You are in a slump. There's that assignment you need to complete. There's that exam that you need to study for, and you just don't feel like it. And now there's this immense sense of overwhelming emotions, right? Because you know that you're supposed to be completing something, but you feel guilty for not doing so. This is a universal student experience. You're certainly not alone. I can attest to feeling like this all the time, but I just recently graduated as a Dean's List biomedical engineering student with both my bachelor's and master's simultaneously, which is a really awesome experience that I've just had. So I can certainly attest that happened a lot. But what do I always say when we think about emotions and trying to base everything that we do on inspiration or motivation? It is not a good idea. Instead, you need to rely on something more consistent, like a system, something that you know is a series of steps that will bring about the results that you're looking for. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before I dive into all of that, I want to switch your perspective a little bit here. We know that the only thing that we can guarantee as human beings that we will have off days. We will have days that are really low motivation. And so if you know that every one of your peers are going to experience that, of course, at different extents and different situations, but you know that they're also going to have moments where they're in their own head and thinking, I don't want to pursue this. Don't you think that perhaps this is a good opportunity for yourself to create some separation from your peers, right? This is your opportunity to stand out. What do I mean by this? Well, I don't come from money. I don't come from resources. I certainly do not. My parents never graduated from college. We always struggled financially. So I'm always looking at it from the standpoint, I'm trying to catch up. And then I need to figure out ways to make separation. Well, guess what? It's in these moments that we can do that. And that's exciting. And so I want you to be somebody that runs towards these types of struggles. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm the embodiment of somebody that does. I know that I'm going to have low motivation days. Some days I feel really great, and that's an easy day to complete. But on the days that I don't feel like it, I also know my competition out there are feeling the exact same. Can I dig a little bit deeper? Can I stick in that emotion for a little bit longer and still complete what I need to complete? Well, hopefully this system allows you to do the same. My name is Jun Yu. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I really feel that this video will be something easy to resonate with, no matter who you are, no matter what age you are, no matter what part of schooling you are, or whether you're even in your career already. Because let's face it, these days come. But now I want to hopefully encourage you to not fear these days. I want you to, again, run towards them and still have a lot of success. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments below. I'm more than happy to respond. Give this video a thumbs up, and of course, subscribe. Number one, remember your why. And I want you to consider these three really important questions. Who are you trying to help? What type of lifestyle or career do you want? And how can this challenge evolve you as a person? I want to quickly answer each of them. So who am I trying to help? When I was studying biomedical engineering, and there's a lot of cardiovascular engineering assignments that I really didn't want to do, how was I still able to complete them? Well, I thought about this. I thought about who was I trying to help? I knew that a career in biomedical engineering, or even in my own business, that if I was successful in it, I would have the financial means to provide for my family. So those were the individuals that I was trying to help. In terms of what type of lifestyle and career I wanted, I knew that if I was successful in either one of those endeavors, or perhaps both of them, I would have a lot of really cool opportunities in terms of financial freedom, along with time freedom, and having an opportunity to do the things that really resonate with me. So if I wanted to be able to help people, and then knowing that the lifestyle and career that I also would hopefully be able to have one day was a part of even that cardiovascular engineering assignment. Yes, it's not immediate, but it's that bigger why that connects that type of assignments to a greater purpose. And then the third one, how can this challenge evolve you as a person? This is basically everything that we talk about in our mentorship program as the foundation of what we aim to do. So yes, in our mentorship program, we talk about how to build a network. We talk about building prospective careers. We talk about personal branding. We talk about making money. We talk about being more productive. But none of that stuff actually will work with longevity if you don't base your foundation off of this type of perspective. Every challenge in front of you can evolve you as a human being in your mind, your body, and your spirit. And those are our first three pillars. And our fourth pillar is honest accountability. So can we ensure that in moments like this, in really difficult moments that many people tend to run away from, can we actually sit in that struggle for a little bit longer? And can we reach the depths of our pillars, reminding ourselves that our struggle is meant for something, that there's greater purpose that stems from it? I truly believe that type of perspective flip is tremendously powerful. And so across those three questions, hopefully you have a better understanding that you need a why, right? Everyone needs a why. And if you're currently sitting there thinking to yourself, I have no idea why I'm doing any of this stuff. Well, first, hopefully you've taken now the first step of gaining an awareness that a purpose is necessary. You definitely don't want to go your whole life never thinking about that, because if you don't, society will hand you your purpose. It will distract you with the millions of inputs all around us on a daily basis. It will make you go, 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 until one day you wake up from the nightmare realizing, man, you've been pursuing things that weren't necessarily aligned to you. And you definitely want to question that. You definitely want to challenge yourself to understand, why am I doing this? Why am I a student? But that doesn't mean that your why has to be connected to something comfortable or easy, right? That assignment is hard. That exam is going to be hard, and studying for that is really hard in the current moment. And so you want to be somebody that faces those challenges head on, having the perspective, again, that it can involve you as a person. So that purpose is selected by you, but having a better understanding that it's connected to something much deeper than just that assignment. What you have in front of you is not just what's in front of you. It's something much deeper than that, if you can have the perspective to. And that's how I've been able to show up every single day and get both my bachelor's and master's in probably one of, if not the hardest major out there in biomedical engineering. It's how I've been able to start a 7-figure business while still as a student from zero. It's showing up for yourself even on the days that you don't feel like it, because those are the days that count. But if you can have a perspective on your why, it's really, really helpful. And I know I'm being very exhaustive here and thorough. And if you haven't ever had this conversation with yourself, that's why I want to introduce you to the idea. But once you have that type of purpose in mind, this can be an immediate type of reset, right? When you're in that moment, just to reflect, to journal on your why can be tremendously powerful. And number 2, break down your goals. Currently, you're looking at this assignment, or currently you're looking at your task to study for this exam, and it seems so overwhelming, right? And probably it's because we as human beings do a lot of overthinking. If you're an overthinker like I am, you can raise your hand at this moment. But what happens is that when we overthink about a task at hand, we actually create these artificial complexities that aren't actually there, right? We just make them up because we're overthinking about it. And that prevents us from ever starting. And that's very, very, very dangerous, right? And so every time that you have a macro goal, like even finishing an assignment or going ahead and studying for an exam, you know perhaps that you need to spend 10 hours to do either one of those things, right? And that's extremely, extremely daunting for yourself. Well, maybe we can break this up, and we can break these down into smaller micro goals. So we can think of this in a time standpoint and think to ourselves, you know what, 10 hours is a lot to do, but I can do 25 minutes, right? And that's why the Pomodoro technique is probably your best friend here. Having an opportunity to break down that macro goal into something much more manageable is incredible, because you're doing 2 things for yourself. You're, 1, establishing confidence because you've actually completed about something that you've committed to long after the emotion in which you originally set that commitment in has subsided, because right now you have low motivation, but you still completed it because you said that you could do the 25-minute bout. It's going to establish a level of confidence. It's also going to establish positive momentum moving forward. So the subsequent bouts, the subsequent sessions are much easier to complete. And so that's from the time standpoint, but even itself, when we're talking about the assignment or studying for the exam, really trying to break it down. But perhaps you want to logically chunk the information so it's a little bit more manageable for you to start. And after you complete one chunk, then you can move on to the subsequent chunks. And it's the same idea of establishing confidence and momentum. So I always talk about this, but you have to realize that anyone can set a macro goal. Anyone can have a variety of to-dos, right? Anybody can do that, and it's not hard to do it. What's really hard and what stands people out and makes people exceptional and extraordinary and really productive are ones that can then look at that to-do, prioritize them, and then execute them, right? But that prioritization will happen when you can take that macro goal into a micro goal, and then you can break those bits up and you realize, you know what, this is where I start. This is where I'm going to prioritize. And then it flows into each of the subsequent tasks or the subsequent steps or the subsequent parts to a single task. And that's how you can be productive. So if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, that's probably one of your best steps to do. So remember your why and start to break down your macro goal into micro goals. Number 3, reduce the initial friction. So we've already started this by allowing us to make it feel a bit less overwhelming, but there are specific techniques that you can utilize to even further reduce the initial friction. So the 5-minute rule, and it's hilarious because everyone in our program uses it. A lot of people use the 3-2-1 method, and it's just a very, very simple method method that works, right? It's basically you telling yourself for 5 minutes you're going to commit to that piece of work. You're going to commit to sitting down, and then you'll decide whether or not to continue. When you can reduce the initial friction from even 25 minutes to 5 minutes, that's a huge, tremendous step, and it makes it just a lot easier for you to do. But it goes beyond just the timing. And I tell people this all the time, but I have a peak productivity window. It's a 90-minute to a 3-hour bout that I will never sacrifice. It's a non-negotiable for me. Every morning I wake up and accomplish that peak productivity window before I go to classes, before I go to work. And it's leveraged for my most demanding tasks, right? But I set myself up for success. So the night prior, I will always do the things that don't require as much cognitive effort that will make tremendous impact the next day during my peak productivity window. So I will look up the assignments that I have to get done. I will open up the tabs on my laptop and I'll close my laptop. And when I can wake up in the morning, I open my laptop and it's all right there. If I'm utilizing the learning system books, then I'll keep it up on my desk on the topic that I need to cover. So this is to say, when you can reduce the initial friction, whether it's the time and you want to further reduce that with the 5-minute rule or the 3-2-1 method, or you want to physically allow yourself to make it easy to access your work, all of those things have large impacts. And the last thing, trust me, the last thing when you have low motivation is to find the assignment that you need to do, is to go and actually break down your work. It's to go ahead and then pull out your books. That's not what you want to be doing, right? Especially when you've allotted that time to be for your deep work session. So make it easy for yourself. Reduce that initial friction. Get the work done when you don't need the cognitive effort, perhaps the night before or perhaps earlier in the day, to set yourself up for success. Number 4, reward small wins. And I believe that this may be one of the most important ones, right? You want to create a positive feedback loop so that you can condition yourself to follow through in difficult times. I know that seems kind of complex, but it's not. And it's really important here, and I have to be very careful, is that I'm not saying only reward the outcome. I'm not saying to only reward the A's. I'm not saying reward only when you can hit a huge milestone in your life. No, I mean reward the things that are actually in your control on a day-to-day basis. And I think a perfect example of this is recently I hit 5 million on Instagram the same day that I graduated with my biomedical engineering degrees. And in that moment, people were like, why aren't you doing more to celebrate? Like, that's such a big deal. That's so cool. And absolutely, I did celebrate and I was able to spend some time with my loved ones. But people have to understand that, man, that's just the outcome. That was just an accumulation of my day-to-day. When it actually mattered were the days that I really didn't want to do it, right? The days that actually mattered are when I was waking up at 5 a.m. and I wasn't necessarily getting the best sleep because it was a really stressful period of time, but I still followed through. I was still productive. I was still effective. And that's because I was rewarding the behavior, the effort associated with it. That's in my control, right? So perhaps going and waiting for a milestone or perhaps waiting for an A isn't necessarily always the thing that's in my control, but what's in my control is perhaps going to an office hour session and asking the TA or the professor for help. Like, that's in my control. Perhaps it's me being more active in class and raising my hands and participating. That's in my control. Perhaps it's utilizing the learning system book and being able to prime, use effective in-class notes and do my post-class immediate review and use active recall applications for my revision. That's in my control. When we're talking about social media, the amount of videos that I post on a daily basis, the ability to respond to comments and DMs and just interact with my incredible audience, like, that's in my control. The amount of following that I increase on one day isn't necessarily in my control. Does that make sense? So I think a lot of people, when they think reward, only associated with a large outcome, and when in reality, when we need the positive feedback loop is actually in the day-to-day, right? And so if you can even have the different perspective switch of telling yourself an affirmation of, if you got work done on the day that you didn't feel like it, and taking a second, and that's why I always tell you to journal in our mentorship program. I require everyone in the 60-day challenge. There's many, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that are doing this at once. They do their mind, their body, and their spirit wins each day, and for their honest accountability, they'll journal and they'll reflect on it. And they'll reflect on it because when they're doing things that are hard, right, when they didn't feel like accomplishing their mind, their body, and their spirit wins, along with everything else in their lives, and they can reflect on the fact that they still did it. That positive affirmation opens and creates this reprogramming that's very, very, very powerful, right? And so even even that frame of mind of, you know what, most people would have quit today, I didn't. That's huge. And even that type of positive affirmation to yourself can be a reward in of itself. Maybe it's something a little bit more physical to that, and I think that's fine. Sometimes when I really succeed in my efforts in a particular event or in a certain school day or for work, that I might treat myself to my favorite meal for dinner, right? Even something like that, or perhaps my favorite dessert, or something to look forward to a schedule. So maybe it's quality time with the people that I care for. Even things like that are going to be a really good way to condition yourself in really, really difficult moments to still follow through. So reward your small wins, okay? It's not just about the big ones, and it's not just about the outcome based. It's about the daily efforts. That's where we actually need the reprogramming. So with that being said, that breaks down to the 4 really important steps that I would encourage you to follow if you're in a slump. The first one would be to remember your why. Connect yourself to the purpose. It doesn't have to be this immediate result, but it's a connection to something bigger than you, or perhaps it's development of yourself because of that challenge. Number 2, break down your macro goals into micro goals. Keeping it solely as macro goals can be extremely overwhelming. So take the extra step to break it down into feasible ones. That's a lot more easier to overcome and build yourself the momentum and the confidence moving forward. And then number 3, reduce your initial friction. This can be with the time consideration, with the 3-2-1 method, the 5-minute rule, or it can be physically setting yourself up for success. And the 4th one, reward your small wins. So after you put in that type of action, reward that behavior so that you can condition yourself to continuously do that in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this video was helpful. Leave your comments below if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to respond to it. Give this video a thumbs up, and of course, subscribe. So until next time, please take care, and I'll see you all at the top.